Hi writers, today we're going to be studying mentor texts to look and see if we can find some really good elaboration strategies. But first I need to tell you a funny story. I was recently in the grocery store and I overheard a conversation between a mom and her son. She asked him, "How was your day at school?" And he said, "Fine." And then the mother said, "What would you like for dinner?" And he said, "Food." You know what? That boy needed to learn how to elaborate or say a little bit more, don't you think? So this is what we're going to be working on today. So today I want to teach you that when information writers revise, they often consider ways they can add more or elaborate. Information writers can learn to elaborate by studying mentor texts, taking note of all the different kinds of information that writers use to teach readers about subtopics. So let's take a look first at our table of contents. So when you're using a mentor text is just a book, any book that's sort of like the one that you're trying to write. So in this case, we're trying to write a teaching book, and we can take a look at any teaching book, and this one is called Deadliest Animals. It's by Melissa Stewart. So let's take a look at her table of contents. We've talked about this, and the big important thing about the table of contents is that it's the very first thing that a reader reads and learns what they're going to come across in your book. So the table of contents needs to make sense, and it should be in a good order, a logical sequence. So as you're looking at this table of contents, you can see that she's got different chapters. They kind of build on each other, and then she's got a little section about different animals. And then she goes into like the worst, the most difficult, deadliest of all. But she starts out by talking about hunters and kind of dangerous things. And then she talks about specific animals. And then she talks about the deadliest animal of all. And I don't know what that animal is. I must read the chapter on page 44, Deadliest of All. All right. So in an information book, information writers include lots of different kinds of things. So they include quotations, they include statistics. Statistics are numbers like, I know, like the cockroach has been around for 350 million years. That's a statistic or a fact. Anecdotes are little stories. Observations are just things that you notice. Descriptions are ways of talking about the cockroach in my story. Like cockroaches are insects and they have 3 body parts, and they skitter across the floor really fast. That's a description. Vocabulary words. So you might talk about different special words that you know that relate to your topic. This is a good example of vocabulary words. This is a diagram of a heart, and it's got all these, it's got special words for each part of the heart. And then you could also include lists and labels. So there are a lot of ways, and you've seen this in information books. Let's take a look at another page in Deadliest Animals. So let's read this paragraph. So this chapter, Big and Brutal, is about hippopotamuses. And she says, hippopotamuses are usually gentle giants. During the day, they lounge and snooze in shallow water holes. At night, they lumber onto land and munch on grasses and leaves. This paragraph gives you a lot of information about the hippopotamus. These are all facts. These are not opinions. Although this first sentence, you could say it's maybe an opinion. Hippopotamuses are usually gentle giants. Gentle is a kind of a feeling about something, and you could argue that's an opinion. But generally, hippopotamuses lay around and eat. The author is not just talking about one day or one time. She's kind of telling about the animal in general. So typical things that this animal does. And did you notice this? This little pullout is another thing that information writers do. You can do that in your book. So if you have a special thing that you want to say, you could make a whole little weird but true part in your book. They also include great pictures. And I think Milen was talking about, can she add pictures? Of course you can. Absolutely. So this picture shows this huge mouth, and it shows our hippopotamus running at us, which might be scary if you were standing in front of it. All right, let's see. All right, let's see if I can do this using my cockroach topic. So this is how I started. Cockroaches have been around for a long time. There are many different kinds of cockroaches. However, there is only one species of cockroach that most people think about when they think about cockroaches, the German cockroach. So I decided that this first sentence is kind of boring. Cockroaches have been around for a long time. You probably already took a nap on that one. So then I added, does this keep you awake a little bit more? Cockroaches have been around for a long time. When the earth was young, even before dinosaurs walked, about 350 million years ago, cockroaches were skittering across the land. Isn't that better? Then I could keep going and say, however, there are many different kinds of cockroaches, but this, I added a couple of sentences to the very first part of my paragraph, and it's so much more interesting. So I tried to picture cockroaches just like Melissa Stewart pictured hippopotamuses, tried to make it more interesting. After I read this, I was like, ooh, that's really good. He's lumbering around, he's gently snoozing in shallow water. So when I saw he snoozes in shallow water, I thought, oh, I'm going to use the word skitter, because skitter makes my skin crawl a little bit. That's how you use a mentor text. You look at it and you go, ooh, that's a really good idea. I want to do that in mine. All right, so let's practice this a little bit together. With this is our topic is places in our school. We know, all of us know tons about places in our school. So imagine that we are elaborating on one of these chapters, and we're elaborating on PE class. So let's take a look at another part of our mentor text to see if we can get another idea. So we're going to pretend that we're going to elaborate on a chapter called PE class. But first, we're going to look at our mentor text and see if we can figure out anything that would help us make our chapter really, really good. So let's see. Here is a chapter on scorpions, and I'm just going to point out that this has a label. This has a really cool little graphic death toll. So, little gravestone graphic with a statistic here about nearly 2,000 scorpion species are alive today. So back to our original idea, though, we're trying to make our chapter on PE class even better. So here's a great example where they use a sound. Scorpions. A scorpion's huge claw-like pincers are its weapon of choice. But if a predator attacks or its prey puts up a fight, zap! A swift strike with the stinger on its tail usually does the trick. So now, this is the first part of our PE class paragraph. PE class is one of our favorite classes. Once we are there, we listen to the teacher for instruction. We warm up and then we learn about the activity for the day. Well, can you use something in here? Maybe a sound, maybe something that makes somebody go, oh, what could you do to make this so much more interesting? So I want you to actually click on this slide and figure out how could you make this chapter or this part a little bit more interesting using some of these ideas. All right, so just do that. But then elaboration means that you say more to give additional information that hasn't been mentioned before. Today, you're going to look at your chapters and decide where you need to elaborate a little bit more. So look through your chapters and decide where you need to elaborate and then revise. So you're So elaborating is part of revising. The other thing I want you to do is use the Information Writers Checklist to remind yourself about what third graders do. It is at the top of classwork under Language Arts Resources. So you can click on Language Arts Resources, and in there are also some really excellent words that you could use when you are elaborating. So there are some lists of words that are really good. Words that refer to what you see, what you might hear, what you might smell, some really great adjectives. So take a look at our Language Arts Resources and have fun elaborating.